This is my sister. My name is Matthew K, and she's going to be my audience for my commemorative speech. When discussions about the most successful, influential, and important writers are brought up, oftentimes the name J.R.R. Tolkien ranks highly among them. Now, if you were born any time during the last century, or have consumed any media during that time, then that should make perfect sense to you. J.R.R. Tolkien's works of The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, and The Hobbit have influenced and inspired countless writers, such as myself. Now, in the following speech, I'll explain how Tolkien came to be such a great writer, why he's a great writer, and how he's influenced people such as myself for nearly a century. Firstly, I'll explain how Tolkien came to be a great writer. The man that would be known as J.R.R. Tolkien was born John Ronald Tolkien in South Africa to parents Arthur Tolkien and Mabel Suffield in the year January 3rd, 1892. During the family's short tenure in South Africa, the young Tolkien could recall little, but the little he could was vivid and influential later in his life. The family's stay came to an end, however, when Tolkien's father tragically passed away in February of 1896, causing his family to return home to the West Midlands in Africa. There, Tolkien was largely raised by his mother Mabel in the Catholic faith, a move that alienated Tolkien, his brother, and his mother from the rest of the family. In spite of this, both Tolkien and his brother remained staunch Catholics throughout their lives, with Catholic theming appearing frequently throughout Tolkien's works. Tragedy would strike again in 1904 when his mother was diagnosed with diabetes, a disease that was typically a death sentence during pre-insulin times. And as fate would have it, she would pass away tragically in the year 1904 in November. Left nearly destitute and orphaned, Tolkien and his brother were placed into the charge of their local parish priest, Father Francis Morgan. While under his care, Tolkien was moved to a boarding house where he began to demonstrate some of his immense talent. He managed to master Latin and Greek, in addition to displaying an intense aptitude for linguistics. He managed to master Latin and Greek in addition to many other languages like Gothic and Finnish. Tolkien's intense linguistical skill would play a larger role in his later writings. Later, Tolkien was invited on holiday to Switzerland, and his time there is largely speculated to have influenced his descriptions of the Misty Mountains and of Rivendell. Eventually, Tolkien attended Oxford, where he began to fully immerse himself within linguistics, and graduated with top honors during the early years of World War I. Subsequently, he enlisted and was sent to France during the famous Battle of the Somme, where he later contracted trench fever, an affliction that lasted the rest of his life. After the war, to commemorate his fallen friends and families, Tolkien began to seriously develop the Silmarillion in his fantasy mythos. Now that I've explained how Tolkien came to be such a great writer, I'll explain why Tolkien was a great writer. In each of Tolkien's works, there lies an undeniable allure that manages to captivate the reader, whether it be due to his proficiency in linguistics, or the rhythm of his words, or his prose. It all manages to work brilliantly. Furthermore, for every single one of Tolkien's creations, it felt as if they were feasible, with backstories and histories that one can fully immerse themselves in. This was the effect of diligent world building in the thousands of hours. In addition, Tolkien's writing proficiency can be seen in the intricate descriptions of the locales of Middle-earth, from the Misty Mountains to the Shire and even to Mordor. Tolkien's great writing also comes from his respect of history, mythology, and religion. As mentioned earlier, Tolkien's Catholicism played a massive role in his development in both his personal life and his writing. If you were to read any of Tolkien's works with an eye for Catholic theming, then you would find an abundance of it. However, rather than being overtly religious, Tolkien's works managed to use the best aspects of Catholicism to create some of the most inspired aspects of Middle-earth and its people. From the Christ-like rebirth of Gandalf to the parallel of lembas bread with the Eucharist, there are countless references that serve to enrich the story without preaching to the reader. In fact, one of Tolkien's main goals was to ensure that there was no overt religion in his works, only echoes of it. Now that I've explained how Tolkien became a great writer, and subsequently why he was a great writer, I will now explain Tolkien's impact on myself and countless others. Before Tolkien's works of The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and The Lord of the Rings, interest in fantasy was at an all-time low. That all changed, however, when Tolkien came onto the scene and began to produce the works mentioned earlier. With each of his writings, Tolkien ignited and stoked the fires of interest until he became legend. That fervor still continues on today, as Tolkien's influence has impacted legions of writers and fans. His creation and implementation of dwarves, elves, hobbits, orcs, wizards, and dragons has resonated so well and so deeply within the public that they've become ubiquitous with the fantasy genre. From the popular tabletop board game Dungeons & Dragons to authors like Robert Jordan, Tolkien's touch can be felt. Personally, Tolkien's works have been a major reason that I enjoy writing fantasy. His prose, rhythm, and theming are things that I strive to be on par with, though that task is one that seems nearly insurmountable. But in spite of that, or perhaps because of it, I still strive to be like him, myself and countless others. In conclusion, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, and The Hobbit have enchanted countless readers and influenced legions of writers. The reason for this is quite clear, as Tolkien was a once-in-a-generation creative. And as I draw towards the end of my speech, I hope you see why he was so great. Be like Tolkien, unafraid to create and afraid to be uncreative. Thank you.